Virginia. I want to talk about Virginia a second. The governor of Virginia is a Republican. I don't know how this happened. Glenn Youngkin. And in the first place, he's a Christian terrorist. And as a result of being just that, he lied his way into the governor's mansion, into the position of governor of Virginia. He told, or his campaign message was targeted towards white suburban women who recently had been drifting away from the fascist Christian party that has now morphed into the Christian terrorist party. And we're supporting these white suburban women. We're beginning to support Democrats who always have had a message that should have made more sense to white suburban women, black suburban women, black urban women, white urban women, black and white urban and suburban men. In other words, everybody. The message from Democrats. Now, there are fine points along the way that we can all disagree with. And I certainly disagree with quite a bit of what the Democratic Party has advocated. But when you're given a choice between the bowels of hell and a day at the beach, what are you going to pick? Glenn Youngkin lied his way, cheated his way, as Christian fascists, Christian terrorists always do, into this political leadership position of governor of Virginia. Let me tell you a little bit more, thanks to the Washington Post, about Mr. Youngkin. I have a piece in front of me written by Alfonso Lopez and Michael Town. Lopez is a Democrat within the state of Virginia. He's not a congressional Democrat, but he represents parts of Arlington, Virginia, and Fairfax counties in the Virginia House of Delegates. That's what they call it there. And Mr. Lopez is the founder of the Virginia Environment and Renewable Energy Caucus. The other guy who participated in writing this, a guy named Michael Towns, he's executive director of the Virginia League of Conservation Voters. Now, what they're talking about is what they're writing about, I should say, is what Glenn Youngkin has done with the help of this Christian terrorist Supreme Court. If you remember back on June 30th, the terrorist Supreme Court dealt a major blow to our ability to combat the climate crisis. And what the Supreme Court did is sided with coal companies and their political allies, Christian terrorists, all with the exception, Joe Manchin's a Christian terrorist too. And the Supreme Court had a ruling that significantly limits the EPA's ability to regulate carbon pollution from power plants, how much they release into the atmosphere, which contributes to global warming and the death of everything living on this planet. Now, the ruling by the terrorist Christian Supreme Court was a setback in many ways, but it made several points painfully clear. First, action at the administrative level is now called into question, so therefore Congress has got to act to address climate change in a meaningful way. Can you see this Congress doing that? No, of course not. Second, action by a state on climate change and clean energy just got even more important now that the terrorist Supreme Court has ruled that the federal government has no say in it through the EPA. But the Virginia governor, this Christian terrorist, Glenn Youngkin, is laying Virginians down, if you believe his bullshit when he was running for governor, at a time when addressing climate change has never been more urgent, especially a state like Virginia. Now, here's the truth. In the past several years, Virginia passed some of this country's most ambitious laws to cut carbon pollution and to hurry up this transition to clean energy. And there were laws that are returning dividends to Virginians because it grows their economy. This is what Joe Biden has tried to tell people. And had it not been for this selfish little son of a bitch, Joe Manchin, we could be on the same path that Virginia is on. It's going to change, but Virginia is still on it. The laws that were passed by the Virginia House of Delegates returned dividends for Virginians to Virginians by growing that state's economy, cleaning out the air in Virginia, and making that state a safer and healthier place to call home. That's what the laws governing pollution and climate change do. They make life better for everybody. So why don't the Christian terrorists go along with it? Well, the answer is simple. It's in the question. Because they're Christian terrorists. They don't believe in this shit. They want to pollute and destroy and defile the planet that their fake God told them that they had dominion over. So they decided, okay, fuck it. Let's just rip the shit out of it, which is what they're doing. Now, the policies that were put in place by the Virginia House of Delegates, according to what I have here, are supported by 2/3 of the people who live in that state. Those are people who recognize the real threat, the existential threat of climate change. And they wanted to see their elected leaders take some action. So rather than wait for a federal administration or a Supreme Court this or whatever the hell, they decided to do it on a state level. Now, if you had a question as to whether or not this terrorist named Youngkin actually wants to be a governor for all of Virginians, you don't have to look much further than his track record on the environment. And this is true of so many of these bastards. The Virginia League of Conservation Voters gave this Christian terrorist governor an F, the first ever F by governor of Virginia. What Youngkin has been doing is trying to roll back, trying to end climate safeguards. And he started doing that shit before he was even inaugurated. He told a room full of business leaders in Hampton Roads, that's a region of the state of Virginia that is the most flood prone. It's right along the coast. And if you have been to Virginia, if you've traveled to that part of Virginia down east, you know what I'm talking about. It is flood prone there. So he was meeting with a bunch of business leaders in Hampton Roads, and he told them that he would work to take Virginia out of the multi-state regional greenhouse gas initiative. And that was an idea that was agreed to by several states in the Northeast, well, in the East, which is cutting pollution and returning hundreds of millions of dollars to the state of Virginia every year to protect communities from flooding. It's also been saving low-income Virginians money on their energy bills, and it has also positioned the Commonwealth of Virginia to respond more quickly and efficiently to climate change. These are all the things that were in the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, multi-state agreement. And Youngkin is trying to end it all. Why? This is always my question. What the fuck what is the alternative? Why does a Christian terrorist like Glenn Youngkin feel compelled to destroy something that is so positive, that benefits everybody in his state and ultimately everybody on the country and ultimately everybody on the planet? What is with these son of a bitches that they are so death focused, so destruction focused? I don't get it. Other than the fact that they belong to a murderous, suicidal, blood-soaked cult that insists on death and destruction. Their whole religious bullshit is based on slaughter and torture and pain and suffering. Ooh, take a breath. Take a sip of River Moon coffee. All right, just a minute. I do get worked up. So this governor, Glenn Youngkin, this Christian terrorist in Virginia, issued an executive order directing agencies within that state to immediately begin the process of removing Virginia from the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. I mean, again, don't start yelling, Mike. Why? Why would he do that? And this was in spite of the fact that the General Assembly in that state passed a statute in 2020 mandating participation. So apparently, this ignorant son of a bitch, Glenn Youngkin, who is a liar, a sneak, a deceiver, and a Christian terrorist, he forgot, maybe, that only the legislative branch in his state can lawfully pull Virginia out of the initiative. Or maybe he just thought he could get away with it. I don't know how these fuckers think. I really don't. When they go against everything that is logical and within that logic, positive, helpful, redeeming, good, and they go against it, what are we supposed to think? Now, according to the piece I have by Michael Town and Alfonso Lopez, Governor Youngkin's attacks haven't stopped there, just with ordering state agencies to get out of this regional agreement. He kept, after the legislature rejected his choice for the post of Secretary of Natural and Historic Resources, Youngkin kept on a real terrorist named Andrew Wheeler. He's a former coal lobbyist and a Trump administration EPA administrator who has built a career around attacking environmental protections that safeguard this country's air and water. And this fucker was the head of the EPA. If you remember his name, Andrew Wheeler, it was one of the filthy, stinking Donald Trump's appointments to head the EPA. And Andrew Wheeler's function once he was head of EPA was to destroy the EPA. The governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, paid this miserable fucker, Andrew Wheeler, $185,000 as a senior advisor before creating, through an executive order, for Wheeler, his own office in charge of cutting regulations in Virginia by starting out at 25%. Slash and burn. And if this rotten bastard Andrew Wheeler's track record of effectively ending environmental safeguards is any indication, it's clear that's what's coming next for the citizens of Virginia. It'll be a state where polluters benefit, and the health and the environment of people who live in that state suffer, are trashed, destroyed by these Christian fucking Nazis. What is with these people? Why do they do this? Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.